On the 1st of October, 1711, Selkirk made his way back to England after being absent for a lengthy span of 8 years. His astonishing tale of endurance quickly captured public attention. Upon his return, Selkirk was no longer the same person. His journey of survival and determination mesmerized all who listened. His remarkable experience even served as the inspiration for Daniel Defoe's renowned novel Robinson Crusoe. Alexander Selkirk's harrowing experience stands as a remarkable symbol of humanity's incredible ability to persist and adjust. His narrative continues to be a moving example of the resilience and strength that resides within each of us, even when confronted by overwhelming odds. In 1966, the Chilean authorities officially renamed Isla Maus off Tierra to Alejandro Selkirk Island. This was a well-deserved homage to the man whose extraordinary story of survival still moves and fascinates people around the world. We appreciate you joining us for this historical tale. If this story captured your interest, please be sure to like, leave a comment, and subscribe for more gripping accounts from history. Until we meet again, take care and stay safe. Picture yourself completely isolated on an abandoned island, your only companions being the haunting noises of the wild and the constant roar of waves hammering the coastline. For more than 4 years, a single individual endured this horrifying scenario. This is the real and chilling tale of a true-life castaway whose extraordinary struggle against impossible odds will make you reconsider the boundaries of human strength and survival. Welcome to Into the Deep, the place where we explore the most baffling and bone-chilling stories from the past. In today's episode, we dive into the eerie account of a man's lonely survival on a remote island, a tale that later inspired one of the most iconic adventure stories ever written. In the year 1676, in the quiet Scottish hamlet of Lower Largo, a boy named Alexander Selkirk was born, destined for danger and daring quests. During his youth, his unruly nature frequently led him into mischief, but it was his dreams of the sea that pushed him toward a life-altering voyage. Selkirk's nautical path began when he took up the life of a privateer. In 1703, he joined a venture led by the English privateer William Dampier, setting sail from Ireland. Backed by official letters of marque, their goal was to seize enemy vessels amid the conflict known as the War of the Spanish Succession. Dampier captained the St. George, while Selkirk served aboard the Cinque Ports under the leadership of Captain Thomas Stradling. After a perilous passage around Cape Horn, their fleet encountered a French warship. Though the enemy escaped, they successfully warned the Spanish of the privateer's presence. The mission unraveled further following a disastrous attempt to plunder Panama. They managed to seize a merchant ship that was well stocked with provisions, momentarily reviving their fading morale. Selkirk was temporarily placed in charge of this captured vessel. However, Dampier soon let the ship go after extracting essential supplies such as wine, sugar, flour, and brandy. By May of 1704, Captain Stradling, along with the Cinque Ports, decided to separate from Dampier, unknowingly setting the course for Selkirk's unbelievable destiny. In September of the same year, the Cinque Ports reached the deserted island of Maus Tierra, part of the Juan Fernandez Islands, to replenish their supply of fresh water. Throughout the journey, Selkirk grew increasingly alarmed about the deteriorating condition of the ship. His repeated warnings led to rising tensions with Captain Thomas Stradling. Fearing the vessel would not survive the voyage and that his life was in jeopardy, Selkirk made a daring and desperate stand. He declared that he would rather be left behind on Maus Tierra than continue the voyage under such perilous conditions. Unknowingly, he was exchanging one set of perils for another. Stradling took Selkirk at his word and abandoned him on the desolate island. Almost instantly, Selkirk realized the gravity of his mistake and begged to be brought back aboard. But Stradling, aiming to maintain authority and discipline among the crew, refused. That decision sealed Selkirk's fate, leaving him stranded with no way back as the Cinque Ports sailed away and vanished into the distance. Now truly isolated, Selkirk was overwhelmed by the grim truth of his circumstances. He was completely alone, hundreds of miles from the nearest human settlement, left with only a handful of belongings: a musket, an old axe, a cooking pot, a knife, a set of carpenter's tools, his Bible, some clothing, and bedding. The island itself was wild, untamed, and filled with strange and unsettling noises during the night. Selkirk's initial days were dominated by anxiety and doubt, but he quickly understood that if he was to survive, he would need to adapt fast to the unforgiving environment. The first step, he had to figure out how to find food. In order to endure, Selkirk had to find both nourishment and protection. He took shelter in a cave by the shore and survived by scavenging whatever he could find. Consumed by intense feelings of sorrow, isolation, and deep regret, Selkirk spent countless hours staring out toward the sea, lost in thought. He would later admit that he often wrestled with thoughts of ending his life. But it wasn't despair that finally forced him to act, it was nature itself. As mating season neared, massive, aggressive sea lions swarmed the beach he had called home, cutting him off from the area where he gathered food and forcing him to flee into the dense and wild interior of the island. Although at the time Alexander was devastated to leave the familiar shoreline and venture into the wild jungle, this sudden shift would ultimately save his life. He soon found a fertile valley beyond the beach, rich with cabbage palms, wild turnips, and an array of native fruits, all of which became central to his diet. In addition, he discovered a population of feral goats, likely descendants of animals released by earlier pirate crews. At first, he hunted them using his musket, but once his supply of gunpowder was exhausted, he learned to chase them on foot and trap them using devices he crafted by hand. Over time, he even managed to domesticate several, using them as a reliable source of meat and milk. During one such pursuit, Selkirk came dangerously close to death. While chasing a goat, he slipped and fell off a cliff, crashing to the ground below. He lay in severe pain for days, slowly regaining his strength. By some miracle, the very goat he had been pursuing had broken his fall, a twist of fate that may have saved his life. But the treacherous cliffs and hazardous terrain were not the only threats. The island was plagued by hordes of enormous rats, some nearly the length of his forearm, that gnawed at his extremities while he slept. These pests posed a serious risk of disease and infection. Luckily, he discovered the island was also home to wild cats. Selkirk managed to tame a few, and they kept watch over him at night, forming a strange but comforting alliance. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, Selkirk adapted more and more to his isolated existence. Despite the complete absence of any sign of rescue, he never let go of hope. Each day, he climbed to a vantage point to scan the horizon, ready to light signal fires at the first sight of a passing ship. By October 1704, Selkirk had moved inland near a freshwater stream, where he constructed shelters using the limited tools he had. He built simple huts from pimento wood and covered them with grass for roofing. Though modest, his shelters were warmed with goat skins and provided a level of comfort. He boiled meat in a kettle and used wood from the pimento tree to build fires. His goats and cats gave him nourishment and a sense of protection. He expanded his diet with local delicacies like lobsters, parsley, watercress, and parsnips. More than anything, his Bible became his most cherished possession. He read it daily, not just for spiritual strength, but to preserve his language skills and sanity. Then, one day while occupied with his daily routine, his heart leapt with hope. 2 ships had anchored near the island. He rushed to the shore, eager to meet his potential saviors, only for dread to replace his excitement. They were Spanish vessels. Knowing that capture would likely mean brutal torture or lifelong slavery in salt mines, Selkirk quickly retreated into the jungle. As the Spanish sailors came ashore in search of supplies, they caught sight of him. Shots rang out, acting fast and relying on the agility he had honed from traversing the rugged terrain. Alexander darted up a tall, leafy tree and remained hidden among its branches. Eventually, the Spanish search party gave up their pursuit. At one point, some of the men even relieved themselves beneath the very tree where Alexander was concealed, yet they never spotted him. Failing to discover any sign of life, they returned to their vessel. As the years dragged on, Selkirk's clothing and equipment gradually deteriorated. When his knife became unusable, he ingeniously crafted replacements from an iron barrel hoop he had stumbled upon along the shoreline. His new wardrobe, crudely stitched together from goat skins, proved rough but functional. Constant movement over the island's volcanic surface toughened the soles of his feet, and his beard, long and untamed, made him resemble a wild, primitive creature. Despite having adapted remarkably to isolation, Selkirk never allowed his hope of rescue to fade. What he didn't know was that his life was on the verge of a dramatic change. William Dampier, the very man who had inadvertently left him behind, was once again leading a naval expedition, this time targeting settlements along the South American coast. Dampier's new fleet, consisting of the Duke and its companion ship, the Duchess, had departed from England on September 1, 1709. By late January of 1710, they approached Mau's at Tierra Island. After more than 4 years in solitude, Selkirk was about to be reunited with a familiar face. Because of his previous close call with the Spanish, Selkirk had grown extremely cautious. He always watched the ocean from his lookout point before risking a trip down to the beach. On February 1, 1710, he noticed 2 ships on the horizon, and by their rigging, he guessed they were British. His heart racing, he sprinted to the shore, quickly lit a signal fire, and waved his arms desperately to attract attention. Dampier, intrigued by the sudden and unexpected smoke, dispatched a small boat to investigate, unaware that Selkirk was still alive. The landing party, led by Thomas Dover, was greeted by a speechless and emotionally overwhelmed Selkirk, who had survived 4 years and 4 months in complete isolation. Woodes Rogers, captain of the Duke, jokingly referred to Selkirk as the governor of the island. Now lean, agile, and mentally sharp, Selkirk hunted goats daily, a skill that proved crucial in helping Rogers' crew recover from scurvy. Rogers was astonished by Selkirk's physical strength and calm composure, later noting, "It is evident that solitude and seclusion from society are not as intolerable as most men believe, especially when one is involuntarily cast into it, as this man was." So impressed was Rogers that he appointed Selkirk's second mate aboard the Duke. Back at sea, Selkirk's enthusiasm for privateering flared anew. At Guayaquil, present-day Ecuador, he led a bold attack up the Guayas River, seizing gold and gems from affluent Spanish women who had attempted to flee with their riches. His daring exploits continued along the Mexican coast, raiding galleons and playing a major role in the capture of a Spanish treasure ship. Later, Selkirk served as sailing master under Captain Dover, navigating through the East Indies and ultimately completing a full circumnavigation of the globe,